Hello, Mixer. How is everyone today? Let's check that our mics are set up properly. Yep, we're using the right mic here. Okay. So, American Polish tonight. Doing decent wine. We got St. Francis Cab Sav. We've got some nice looking Yukon Gold potatoes here. And I've been buying ahead here because I'm planning to go all out on Sunday, even though I'm starting well into the start of the game. I'll be starting at 4:30, but I'm doing Frito pie casserole, doing 3-meat chili, doing mac and cheese, and doing sausages. Gonna have all sorts of cool stuff. So tonight is gonna be city chicken, which is not really chicken at all. It's a recipe coming from before we had chicken regularly, which is like the 40s, 50s or so. We were raising chickens well before that, but mostly for their eggs. And it wasn't until we got into the 40s and 50s that we started breeding chickens specifically for their meat. So this is American, but it's old American and Polish. So we're going to use. I'm also going to use ground meat instead. Most of my looking into the recipe and looking at other things, I'm going off of what I remember as my mom getting from the supermarket as a kid, which was ground meat, which is what I'm going to use. However, most of what I'm reading and most of what I'm seeing online is kebabs or almost what is the proper term for that? Like Euro meat, where it's packed together, but it's pieces of meat. But I'm going to be using ground meat, and we're gonna skewer them. I've got skewers here hydrating in some slightly bleached, very very slightly, a couple drops bleach water. And we'll rinse those off before we use them with the meat, but making sure that they're sanitary because I have had them for ages. And they're not really proper sticks for this. You need a nice beefy skewer for these. I'm going to be using these thinner guys that I actually already cut in half. And I'm thinking I'm going to put 3 of them together, and each of these I'm going to do 4 different pieces. Also got, as I mentioned, Yukon Gold potatoes. And I found some green beans at the market that were looking pretty good, even though absolutely not in season locally. Saw those at the supermarket and at the farmer's market. Went to both today. And so figure we can do some bacon with green beans, little apple cider vinegar, and what else did I promise? Oh yes, we're going to use some of my garlic that I started fermenting back in August. This is garlic, same type of garlic as this, got soft neck supermarket garlic. And because hard neck garlic is not in season right now, probably could have gotten it. I probably could have gotten it in the summer though, even though it's sort of late. We're just now, I think, coming into the beginnings of it. Anyways, no, actually, spring garlic. Spring garlic is usually one of the first things I see at the farmers markets popping up as an indication of veggies for spring in my mind. So it's probably very end of spring, early summer that you get your hard neck garlics. But they probably should have still been around, especially dried. But anyways, so we got supermarket garlic, we got honey, And this is primarily honey, and it's still this thin. And that's because the garlic releases liquid into there. And we've also got a little bit of apple cider vinegar, but only just really to bump the pH up and make it safe from botulism. And we got a little, looks like a little baby nipple, but these are, oh, I forget the name, the term for them. But they're silicone, and the pressure of the silicone on the top is strong enough to keep an X that's cut in there so that it can burp if the pressure gets too high, but otherwise it stays sealed. Sort of like a cheap airlock, not really using liquid. It's probably not as safe as other methods, but it's worked pretty well for this. It's worked for me for other things that I'm fermenting, like in the fridge or stuff that I'm a little less worried about. But people use them for all sorts of things, so not a sponsor. So we'll use some of that garlic tonight. So it'll be sweet and funky. So where do we start? I think we're going to start with getting our potatoes cut and washing our hands. Tomatoes are for Sunday. Gonna be making guacamole on Sunday too, because I got these. They still need ripening, which is why I've got them sealed in a bag here. And so we got some avocados already ahead for California grown, not Mexican grown, California grown avocados. Mexican grown cheap Romas. There's a knife. And we'll use this guy. Ooh. Need to wash these guys. Got a clean new scrubby here for this sort of a thing. I don't use it often, but I typically keep two scrubbies over here. The one I'm currently using and one to replace it with that I'll use for veggies up until I replace it with. This is that dirty one that I'm taking a little extra time with here. Or the obviously dirty one. This guy's all dirty too, under his rusting. Gonna have to remember that. No more potatoes from that market. It's on a national market, so it's not like I'm... leaving the skins on, cutting them tight so that there's no big chunks of skin in there when I hand mash these. No other real reason other than we're hanging out here that I would bother to cut them this fine. If I was in a restaurant, I'd probably be planning on throwing these in a mixer, so I wouldn't be worried about the skins because the mixer will just tear them up. But hand mashing them, those are a little bit bigger, but they'll still be fine. You do want to try and keep them close in size for the cooking here, but it's mashed potatoes. I mean, that was a little large. Oops. Not very yellow this time of year for being Yukon Golds. I've had Yukon Golds and that pan looked like gold. So we'll cover these with water. Put those on the stove. No onion tonight, I don't think. Do I want to do some with the green beans? It won't be bad with the green beans. We can do some onion with the green beans. Almost feel sad not having onion in a dinner. Don't know if anyone out there in mixer land realizes, but I go through 3-4 onions a week here. we'll just slice these guys up and we'll throw these in after our bacon gets nice and crispy. So we'll need pan for our green beans, pan for our frying, where I got the oil out and up to room temp. Get myself some more water. Okay. Let's get our bacon ready too. Got 3 slices of thick cut bacon there. We'll not use the oven tonight, we'll just do these in the pan. Even though they're slices, we'll leave them in pieces like this so that they almost work like lardons until they separate themselves from the fat. turn our fan on low. We'll get our green beans out here. Maybe a few too many on these for myself, but I was figuring with trimming and all that good stuff. Used to be the most. It's nice that the supermarket had them all. I mean, I'm sure they were all the same size in the box too. I'm sure they were machine picked to be that way, but it's sort of nice. It makes it easy. You can just do that. We're done with our tops. We'll leave all the rest. I don't know. Should I have those? Think on that for a second here. Turn the temp down again now that we got some decent color and everything's cooking. We want these to just turn all lovely and crispy and crunchy, and I think I am going to have these guys. Oops, rear burner. Turn the potatoes on now. Gonna put a lid on those. I don't know if the water level's on that or not. That's right on the edge of being on the water level. So we'll know when those are bubbling because the fan will start and the top will come right off. also tentatively planning to do a special stream tomorrow. It's going to be Saturday. My local hardware store is going to be having their first of the month Saturday sale. And I'm going to do all my last minute shopping for getting my garden started. I got most of my seeds and I got my setup to get them started here in the rack actually on the counter here in front of me. I can't show you with the cameras set up the way they are now. But I'm gonna plant all my seeds tomorrow and get them going under lamps. I don't really have any great sunlight in the house. I have two plants here that are between you and me and the windows here. I've got a, oh, what is the name of that again? Oh, I got two plants. Oh, the guy. Oops, there we go. Doesn't even need to be a boil. Ooh, missed a top. Missed a couple of tops here. Did I skip a batch and skip cutting the tops on a batch? Starting to get there. Say we're about halfway to where we want these cooked through to. But unfortunately, you know, we can start off hot and fast. We sort of go slow here to get the last little bits of these guys and make sure I'm turned the right way and so for our meat this evening, veal and we have pork. not going to use all the veal, especially price point wise. But do about a third of it here. So we'll pull these off onto paper towel. Bacon. And we'll turn our pan up a little hotter now and throw our onions in. Man, I just cannot get that open tonight. You can see I've already dented it. It's because of this. It's stuck inside in between the two layers. Pinch of salt. Punch salt. There we go. Fourth or fifth time's the charm. I'm gonna clean and sanitize our top up here. I'm going to replace the metal ring because the metal ring has obviously seen better days. Can't really trust that to keep a seal. it is going to be milder and sweeter, so don't want to do a full spoonful here, but grab ourselves a new ring. Rather a usable, previously used but clean ring. Professional restaurant would be blanching these green beans. I'm going to cook them in the pan. Blanch them, you can get them all perfect, but this way you get some color and I don't have to deal with a giant pot of water. That guy. I actually cut that one down. They're designed to fit on a pint glass jar or a pint. What is this? Small guy. Well, they're similar, if only maybe actually slightly stiffer as far as the garlic, and it's not sticky anymore. You can obviously see where the crushed honey or crushed garlic, which I crushed all of these cloves at least partially, where they were penetrated by the honey. I'm actually going to turn these onions off now. We'll give them one more stir here, because I don't want to go too far with them. I don't want to get too much color on them. And we're not quite ready to add our green beans here, especially since I haven't even put together the city so-called chicken. Melt the plastic there. Slightly marked, I can't rub it off. You can see why this thing's stuck. All the inside of that had honey and other stuff that didn't go nearly as well. But that's on the outside, it's not on the inside. What am I doing? This is trash. Okay. Season our meat. You can see the veal has obviously got a much finer grind on it than the pork does. The pork was ground by the local supermarket. And the veal was obviously ground by processor. Little MSG. Breadcrumbs. If you're looking to bulk up your dinner in some form, here, this is the point to do it. If you want to saute up some oyster mushrooms or your choice of many other things to hide in there, I'm going to toss them with some breadcrumbs in the mixture on top of, I'm using panko tonight, even though I'm certain that that's untraditional. Breadcrumbs will also help with any of the moisture let go by the ground beef to be soaked up by the breadcrumbs here. So I'm not going to mix this up too much. You just want to get the veal slightly mixed in there with the pork. Okay. Now I'm going to separate this off into about 4 different batches here. Check on our onions, check on our taters. Gonna do other than doing panko, I'm going to do traditional breading method here. So flour, breadcrumb, egg. Gonna pour this bleach water off, collecting the skewers so they don't fall out into my sink. Harder than that seemed. And refill it with fresh water. Make sure they've all been sanitized and now washed clean. Get a plate out here to hold our city chicken pieces. Good sign our skewers are all not floating either now, like they were originally. They're fully hydrated. I lost one to the sink. too to the sink. Okay. I'll risk it. I was more worried about the fact that I've owned these skewers for like 10 years. That there was something worse on them than just whatever's on the sink. I should just let you dry. You're clean. Wine sounds like a marvelous idea. But I've got stuff all over my cutting board, so I'm going to give it a minute still. But pull out our wine glass for tonight. So this is, I'm shooting for 4 of these guys tonight, so I'm going to try and quarter this. And need sort of a, shooting for sort of a, again, I'm copying as I know it from the supermarket, not from proper tradition, not from, I mean, I grew up around Detroit. Detroit has a decent Polish population. So I'm hoping it's authentic, but other than, it seems like most people use chunks of meat. Put all 3 of these guys up through the center of that. There we go, our meat lollipop. Use the plate here to flatten it out a little bit. That might have been a bit heavy here. Let's see. I think we can squeeze this out. Sort of shooting for that traditional ice cream on a stick look myself. Separate this in half here. Yeah, that's not too bad. I wasn't too far off on that. Looking like our potatoes are starting to get up to temp. Forming that one more like a hamburger. At least not wanting up. You could probably do some cool funky things with these at this point here. This would be awesome for marinating them at this point. So like I said, this is the point if you want to add in mushrooms, or like I did, add in breadcrumbs or anything else you can think of to bulk them up. So, wine this evening. Very familiar with St. Francis Winery. They're nice and close here. It's been quite a while since I've had any of their wine. They drive by their place all the time on Highway 12, going out to Sonoma usually on Fridays. I actually know the people that run the farm up front of them too, but they're quite the operation. They believe they have a restaurant, or I don't know if it's their restaurant or their wine pairings, but they've been a top-rated pick for what's the Open Table, the reservation app. Sort of they do their top of the year, and they've won once or twice here now. We got a real cork. This is a good winery. I mean, they're big, but they're a good winery. Don't know. I think they're owned by Constellation. Hey Naya, how you doing this evening? Wow, that is dark. I am doing quite lovely tonight. Cut the heat on our taters. Just let them hang out at that temp. Give ourselves a nice white background here to show you what wine looks like. Quite a dark, rather opaque, quite plummy in color. Tasting notes are saying plums in mine because I read the tasting notes before I started the stream. Tasting notes being very plummy, notes of tobacco, notes of oak, and not extremely tannic, but more tannic than some of your cabs. Not getting a whole lot on the nose here. It hasn't quite. Maybe it hasn't opened up. It's obviously could be aged longer looking at that color. That's at least part of the point. This is according to Vivino, rated in the top 4% of wines in the world. It's according to Vivino again. It's a $21 price point wine, which I don't know if I certainly didn't pay that. I'm the 10 to 15 buck range when I'm in the supermarket, but that's also with discount, and there's people on Vivino saying they paid upwards of $35 a bottle for it, and think it's worth it. So certainly not. I like it. There's not really any bold things that I'm picking out that I'm sort of reaching to actually try and figure out tasting notes on it, but it's tasty. It's smooth. There's no real alcohol bite to it. You get the tannins in the back of your throat, but not very. Very, very, best way I could say it is very well rounded. It's got a little bit of everything going on in there, but it's not very, nothing's too overpowering. So I'm going to throw some salt on these guys, even though we're a little ways out. It'll help pull out a little bit of moisture before I throw them in the pan. And unlike working with fresh garlic, since we're using home fermented garlic and honey, if you didn't watch, I don't know how long you've been lurking around now, but this is stuff that I started fermenting in August. So this is even as liquidy as this bottle is. This is primarily honey with garlic and just a hint of vinegar to get the pH to a safe level for storing it. And since we're working with fermented garlic, this has already been kicking around in the kitchen here for 6 months, or 5 months, 4. Not math person. We're going to put this in at the end and just sort of warm it up to cook it through. We're not going to saute it like we would fresh garlic because it's not going to be as harsh as your normal garlic. Let's get our breading station set up here. Grab myself some glass pie tins here. No, I'm just making dinner. I like changing things up. This, even though my mom was buying them pre-made at this point from the supermarket like this, already breaded, ready to go, this is one of my childhood dishes. Coming up with the green beans, somewhat inspired by a family dish we had this holiday, and somewhat entirely on its own from what I know myself and how traditionally. I do a little bit of everything. The major thing is with the stream is I'm always trying to do something, even if it's like a dish that I've done before streaming, I've changed something up a little bit, at least so I have something to chat about. But primarily just making dinner. This is how I've been doing dinner for years and years now. So I'm sort of holding myself to the flame of doing it regularly 3 days a week, but I've been doing dinner at least 2 days a week like this, and usually 3 days a week for years. And so I'm really just streaming, recording it for myself to see what I'm doing, I think I'm doing wrong, and have fun and maybe have some cool people to chat with. Yeah, quite a while ago. I've worked quite a few other places. You might check out, I don't know if you're on your mobile, if you can see it or not, but I have a long description on all the stuff I've done down below my stream. I've worked in all sorts of places. I'm a Culinary Institute of America graduate, but that was, 12 years ago. So, and they say when you go through your bachelor's program, which I'm a bachelor's graduate, you do, by the time you've finished your first 2 years, 3/4 of what you learned in college is already outdated. So if that's the truth, 12 years, just about everything I learned should be outdated. And I've learned quite a bit outside of school since then that You know, I'm using sous vide. We didn't. It was around when I was there, but it wasn't really a major thing, even for being such a well-sponsored school as the CIA. And I'm learning a lot more about fermentation. There's a lot of leaps in fermentation. They're getting a lot more specific about it these days. So getting back to dinner. Setting up breading for these guys, we need flour. Might need more flour than that. Is that open? We'll sub in a little pastry flour rather than opening up a new thing of fresh regular flour. And that's whole wheat pastry flour. I've toyed with that in the past. I've toyed with trying to freeze fruit in ice too. And one of my former employees was a popsicle maker before he worked for me. But ice infused with juice is not very descriptive here. Are we talking gelato? Because that's basically what gelato is. You add sugar and you make sure it's not too solid in a block. I most certainly will do gelato on stream here in the future once we start getting... You see, this time of year, as far as food, just sort of sucks. I mean... Tomatoes are horrid. The green beans, even though these are nice and green, are imported. These are from Mexico, and the only reason I bought them is because I want to make guacamole and salsa on Sunday. Everything's horrible in food this time of year, other than meat. Well, that's not true. Citrus is great in winter. Your root veggies are great in winter. It's when the stuff that's growing in the ground has the most sugar right now. So your beets, your potatoes, any of your root veggies, celeriac. But compared to the veggies and the beautiful colors of summer, yeah, this time of year sucks. Give this a whisk up. Break up those egg whites, those albumin. Okay. It's just until, it's not sticking to the whisk anymore. When he started with that, you could have picked up half of the egg with that. And lastly, some panko breadcrumbs in the last guy. Which, as I said earlier, panko is most certainly not traditional. None of this could be traditional. It's what I know. And I'm not Polish, so I didn't have a, this is how you do it, you know. Because Emerald's right, our breading isn't seasoned. Panko is not a famous brand. Kinko Man is. Which I don't normally buy Kinko Man Panko, but Panko is sort of a hard one. You sort of need to buy Panko mass produced. Get into the specifics here. I'll give you a lecture on Panko. True Panko, which buying Panko from the store in a box like these guys, even though I was trying to keep the brand off stream, they specifically bake the bread for their Panko breadcrumbs, and they bake it sort of with no browning, no color to it whatsoever, and they bake it dry to begin with. And so it's not something you could easily produce on a small scale to get their large crumb that's still airy. I could have just been spitting a bunch of proprietary junk to you that's off of, I got that from How It's Made or something. Okay, salt, pepper. Gordon's not horrible. A little more European style MSG, or as I call it. Add a pinch of cayenne to wake things up. And I think we'll leave it simple. Maybe we'll add a little paprika. That's more. Most of that won't go through. This was more for the flour is going to go directly on the meat, so that's more for flavor. Oh, I think I've seen that clip. Okay, so get ourselves some oil going. Turn the flame on with that. Potatoes are looking all right. I'm gonna make sure we get it all lightly coated. We don't want any flour bubbles, but Don't really have any here to show you what a flower bubble is, but so there's our first one. Keep an eye on our temperature here of our oil. I am sort of avoiding moving these with the skewers at this point because they're just creating a bigger hole and the meat hasn't solidified to hold it. So just, they should be good to hold it once we get them cooking. Went and forgot and mixed up my hands. Shaking my head at shaking off all those panko into the counter here when I'm probably going to have to use more now. Forgetting to check on my oil here, although I don't think we're quite up to temp yet. Using a little bit of a hotter flame to get this cut up here. I was a little late getting the oil started. Should have maybe breaded these and then added the skewers after breading them. They're sort of a obstacle in the pans here. Trying new things, learning how to do them better. Mm-hmm. Much more plumbing now than the nose than it was when it started. It's opening up a little bit. To almost 300 there. Gonna use since I have it, I bought a larger container of sour cream. So we'll use some sour cream with the mashed potatoes tonight, and butter instead of cream. And rest of the sour cream is for Sunday, doing all sorts of tailgating stuff. You here, read off my list. I know I skipped things last time. Anyways, to start, I'm gonna try out. I haven't had this before. I haven't even tested it before. It sounds like it's awesome. If you've heard of Frito pie, great southern dish. Sort of trying to do a combination of barbecue for Kansas and some San Fran stuff for San Francisco. So we'll do Frito pie casserole. I'm going to be doing a... Why is this not reviewing properly? Refreshing properly. Oh. Because it throws mobile into the address when I shrink it. Computer issues. Yes, I know I'm live. So I'll be doing 3-meat chili. I'll be searing some sausages. I'm going to do Dungeness crab mac and cheese. So that's our San Francisco with and gonna do Frito pie casserole and then guacamole to match with that, and some sour cream. Gonna be true tailgating. Let's see what our temp's at for the oil now. We're getting there now. I think we're about ready to get started with this party. Okay. So, onions and bacon fat over here from earlier. Let's take our chicken. Slowly lower them in. Gonna do 2 at a time here. I can't fit all 4 of these in there. Get rid of these guys. sorry for any micro or headphone users. Going to turn the oven on to low temp just to hold these guys after we're done frying them. 200 sounds decent. That's looking good. We're not going at a high heat here because we're cooking that meat through. We're going sort of low temp. I started at oils that was at, well, you can probably see it, but it was 325-ish, 330-ish. Still holding decent temp there. Still in the 300s. Surprising for effectively throwing a couple of ice cubes in there. I don't know if I want to throw this in a 200-degree oven. Pull this guy out. Spider webs and all, apparently. Give those a grind of finer salt than kosher. And we'll drop these guys down in the oven to stay warm. See what our temp's at. Ooh, warmer than before even. Yeah, very plummy now, very jammy now on the nose. Now it's opened up. Get some butter going for with our mashed potatoes. Just gonna melt that in the microwave real quick. It didn't melt that butter very well. Lifting them up a little bit there and moving them around because they get in the bottom and they just get direct heat. They don't get the oil, which is going to help. I don't know, maybe moderate the temp. So we'll finish doing these two guys up, then we'll mash the potatoes, and we'll finish up with the beans here. Ooh. Say almost 6:30. It should be a good 2-hour stream. That's what I shoot for. Here another hour, I end up eating too late. Don't have to remember that temp. That temp's like perfect. Cut our heat on those. Grind a fresh salt. Grind a small salt. And down in the keep warm oven. Okay, mashed potatoes. Gonna slide this oil to the back and forget about it till the morning. And it's nice and cool. Well, I'll warm it up slightly just so that it passes through a filter a bit quicker, but not to a temperature that I'm worried about burning myself. And pass that through a coffee filter, and we'll use it maybe one more time here. That's getting pretty long in life there for the oil. I've used that a few times now. I didn't do the fried fish with this oil though, so I ended up tossing the oil after doing the fish last week before? Sunday the week before. That was just too fishy, and I thought with the fact that I don't do a lot of fish, I just tossed it. Kept my regular cooking oil separate. So we got our potatoes drained. I just used the lid to drain them off. We'll add in butter. And a hefty spoonful of this good stuff. Uh-oh. These potatoes are not cooked well enough. They're cooked through though. Maybe that's giving me a little trouble to begin with. Nope. Note to self, Jason, cook your potatoes longer. I always undercook my potatoes. I don't know why I do that. Yeah, they're not breaking down hardly at all here. Change of plans. Pull our city chicken out and crank that oven. I was so looking forward to mashed taters too. Plan B, we're going to save potatoes. We're going to turn this into a casserole style dish. Because they're cooked through. They're just not cooked through. They're tender to bite, but they're not soft enough to mash. They got more. I don't think these are Yukon Golds, even though they were sold as Yukon Golds. They're way too. Eh. So we'll throw some black pepper on top, and I think I have some Parmesan kicking around this fridge somewhere. Yeah, I do. Gonna have to get creative here to hold these. Dinner's gonna take a little longer now. Gonna have to get creative here to hold the city chicken at a nice temp here. So I'm gonna actually pull out the toaster oven. Hidden down here underneath. Creating some extra dishes for me this way too. Bake 200-ish on. Actually, let's turn that, or 150-ish. We're just going to toss this in there. It's not quite 500 yet, but turn our fan up higher. Have a sip of wine and relax a little bit here. Naya, that's still you hanging out here? Doesn't look like it, so I'll read news since there's no one in chat. Hmm. Yummy wine. I'm loving this bottle. I'm not. I don't remember having. I went into this not having a good memory of St. Francis of their wines. That's why I haven't had one in quite a while. But this is yumminess. I'm gonna go put slippers on. Just realized I've been walking around all evening without my slippers on. Got slippers for the holidays and never looked back. I'm hooked. Give me my slippers. Oh, Tater's over here too. Gives ourselves a quick sneak peek there. Mm-hmm. Hoping to have dinner ready at this point, but we're having to hold things a bit longer than usual here. It's starting to get there with those potatoes. Trying to get that nice, beautiful golden top to it, since I screwed up on the mashing. These guys, this is my old butter dish, so butter ain't gonna hurt this. We'll take our wash the sour cream and potatoes off of our spoon though. Take our onions out. Got enough oil in there to start our green beans. Turn the oven down now. Still got all those bacon yummies in there. We'll take that, we can add all of our bacon in back with this. Add in all of our fermented garlic. Gonna add a little thyme to these. Into just the leaves here. If I had some mint would work well in with this too, or spearmint, or anything along that line. I'm not normally a mint guy. I don't normally have it around. But this would be a good use for it in my world. Pan's nice and warm. Get our green beans in there. Gonna try and not cough as we throw a little vinegar straight into this hot pan. Just gonna steam those nicely. And we'll toss this with it once we're done. Where's my last bowl? Oh, it's over here. think we're good there with that. We're going to throw all of this in there just to lighten it up a little bit. You can get it all incorporated while it's in the pan. Oops. Gonna need a little bit more moisture here to lighten that up. Trying not to army grain these guys, but trying to make sure they're nicely cooked through at the same time. I think that's good right about there. You always get a big whiff of thyme. Final pinch of salt. Black pepper. Little MSG. Gonna give that another minute or two here. "10-minute fix here to fix our mashed potato errors." Man, I've had 3 failures here in the last 2 weeks. This is pretty bad. Biscuits last night were crappy, and the fish that last Sunday that I had to go and redo because I didn't do the pasta right. No bueno. see what we got here. Those look pretty good for being a fix. What do you think? Put ourselves a plate together here. Get all that scumminess off of this plate, the reflectiveness. These guys, I really need to replace these plates. It was my plan to do that earlier this year, but they just have too many nicks and cuts in them. They look dirty when they're not. They're perfectly clean. Taters. Got ourselves some green beans. We'll use some of my mustard greens here to. Bought these guys for Sunday, and I was going to use them for Sunday, but they'll look good here to help pretty up our potato situation. Pull ourselves out a piece or two of chicken here. Now we're going to do them like that. Just like that. And there you go. There is dinner. Looking quite lovely. Looking much better than those potatoes actually turned out. But that's life. Forgetting where I put my phone when it's on the corner of the table. There we go. Give ourselves a shot of this guy. Shot of these guys. Alright, I'm going to go and enjoy dinner. Thank you for joining me, guys. Thanks for stopping by now. Hope you all have a lovely evening, and follow me, please. Need all that good stuff. Need those follows. Need those likes. Well, I don't have likes on here, but I'm gonna go enjoy this amazing wine and some great looking food. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you back here on Sunday for Super Bowl extravaganza.